Crystal Tower information, Whiskey 2153 Zulu, wind 060 at 5.
076 Mike Juliet, this is departure radar contact.
Hazardous weather information from Minnesota available on flight service frequency.
You've dialed in the Flying Midwest podcast, connecting aviators from across America's heartland, sharing news, information, and events from around the region.
Calling Nancy 53 on Overtime, Roger, turn left heading 070, runway 9er, clear for takeoff.
Sit back, relax, and join our crew for some hangar talk as we discuss a wide variety of regional aviation topics.
Archer 71143, flying 5, runway 28 left, quick takeoff, left hand southwest.
And now, from our home at the Anoka County Blaine Airport, our checklist is complete, and we're ready for departure for another episode of the Flying Midwest podcast.
Contact departure, every flight.
Hey, welcome everyone to a brand new exciting episode of the Flying Midwest podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jim, and we're joined on this fabulous episode by the one and only Badger Pilot.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I'm used to Maddie getting called out first.
I know. In fairness, I saw the mute icon. I'm like, I'm going to change this up and just throw a wrench in all of it because we're so off the rails in this recording already. I also want to welcome our great friend, Maddie.
Did you just friend zone me?
Yeah.
Am I funny?
But you're in the great friend zone.
No, it's
I'm
good
in the podcast friend zone.
No, it's good to be a friend. It's better than being a buddy.
Okay. Let's hear about that.
Am I no longer a co-host? Did I get demoted?
You're a co-host.
Then why did you just address me as a friend?
Do you not want to be our friend? I mean, I would get it.
I will be your enemy and a co-host of this podcast.
No, we are not doing that.
Now I have to listen back and hear how Jim introduced me. Did I even get friend?
I don't think so. You're my buddy.
No, there's a difference.
Okay.
Friends are like people I actually... Okay, so I explained this to my daughter the other day. You have...
Okay, I'm listening.
You have your acquaintances. They're people that you just know. You recognize them. You see them from time to time. But that's about it. Yeah, you don't hate them.
Okay.
You probably have their number in your phone.
Probably coworkers fall in that category, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then you have your buddies. They're people that, like, if you're throwing a big party or something, if they hear about it by word of mouth and show up, oh, hey, how's it going? But they might not get invited per se. And then you have your friends who you actually, like, talk to on a regular basis. Or even if you don't, you actually enjoy talking to them after a while of not talking to them.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? So, like, you guys are friends. Let's see. Who can I say?
You.
Who can I say is a buddy without it ending up somehow biting me?
You mean like in a recorded environment in a podcast
exactly.
where they might hear it? Like what the? I didn't know I was in the buddy zone.
Like Rich
The
Wellman.
buddy zone.
Rich Wellman. Rich has never invited me to fly in his plane. I've never invited him to fly in my plane. But we have each other's numbers. He's a friend of the show. Well, I guess he's a buddy of the show. But
The show doesn't have buddies. The show has friends. Everybody's a friend.
But you know what I mean?
You can have a buddy.
You know, this isn't blooper reel content. This is straight up going in the episode. I think
we are like Rich was happy, I'm sure, to have me sign his poster, but it wasn't because it was me necessarily. It was just because people were signing his poster. He wasn't like, no, you can't sign my poster, but he didn't seek me out like, Badger, I want you to sign my poster. It was just, hey, people are signing my poster. So yeah, Rich and I are like buddy status. And I'm sure if you asked him and he understood the difference, because apparently this isn't common knowledge.
He's going to when he listens to this episode. He will know the difference.
Yes.
That's so funny, and that he got buddy zoned.
And then you have acquaintances. Like I would consider like the opposing bases guys acquaintances for me, because I don't have their numbers, they don't have my numbers. Our only association is basically through the podcast world. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, that's not a bad thing. You're not like in the association zone or whatever. Just
This is a new thing? What's the association zone?
I couldn't remember what the first word I said was. Acquaintance. You're not in the acquaintance zone.
And then there's people you don't associate with, which means your association zone.
Right. Yes.
God.
The disassociation zone.
Stop.
And I won't name
There-
those names.
There is no
podcast-
saving this episode.
No. This podcast is a disaster. Why do they let us
Nothing.
record things and post them on the internet?
Because it's the internet. We can do whatever we want.
Valid.
Anyways, speaking of buddies and friends, and specifically friends of the show, we are starting to gear up for our Airventure Extravaganza Extraordinaire Catalina Wine Mixer. What are all the names we put in it? Our guest appearance show where you, the listener, and friend and or buddy and or associate of the show,
Associate acquaintance,
acquaintance of the show,
frenemy.
can actually call in and we talk to you about your favorite memories about Airventure, what you're looking forward to, and all of that good stuff. So if you're interested in being a part of that episode, feel free to email us at flyingmidwestpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll start making the arrangements.
That is always a fun episode to record, too.
I love that.
Well, hey, speaking of Airventure, I would like to make a very important announcement. Am I allowed to do that?
No.
Can I do it anyway?
Sure.
Dun, 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 dun.
Let's see. I was going to say, do I have some music that goes with this?
That was it. That was what you get.
We've been kind of building this up, or maybe I have, for a couple months that we were working on something really exciting in the background. Well, that really exciting thing is going to happen. So we are going to have a forum at Airventure this year, which is really interesting timing that this comes up as we bring in Dick Knapinski for our Airventure preview episode. So, at any rate, this is going to be not just us, but it is a podcaster question and answer meet and greet forum. So it's going to be on Saturday, July 26th, 11:30 a.m. until I think 12:45 on forum stage 6 over in the forum stages. So we may adjust some of the start timing and do some meet and greet stuff in advance of that, just depending on availability of other podcasts who may or may not be in the area. But on board so far, we've got AvTalk podcast brought to you by Flight Radar 24. Yeah, we've got Jason Miller from the Finer Points. I think we're going to have at least one of the guys from the Green Dot podcast on, and Dan Milliken from the Taking Off podcast. Oh, yeah, and we're going to be there too.
Yeah, that's right.
So the idea of this forum is going to be, we want to give listeners of all these podcasts the ability to ask questions of their favorite podcasters, whether it be how we come up with our content or what have you, and then have a meet and greet session afterwards to not only allow you to meet your favorite podcast, but maybe find your next must-listen to aviation podcast. That seems fair, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm really looking forward to it.
I am too. I am a little bummed that Maddie's not going to be there.
Yeah.
I'm pretty bummed that
sorry.
Maddie's not going to be there.
It's not a you thing. I understand.
No.
It just is.
It's just the way the scheduling fell. Maddie will be with us in spirit.
I will be with you in spirit. I'm not dead. I am simply working.
You got lots of important work stuff to do.
I got
get it?
airplanes to fly.
That's right. So how is that going, by the way?
Oh, it's going great. I actually flew for the first time today. I don't want to say
Okay.
I flew. I have flown in the airplane. However, this time I actually got to fly. It was fun
You
flying.
were pilot flying.
I
Okay.
was for cruise up until about 500 feet AGL,
Oh,
which was
cool.
very cool. I got to fly through some towering cumulus clouds, which were wild when you're going 210 knots. Ooh, it's spicy.
I was going to say a little spicy.
A little, yeah. It was pretty crazy. And I actually hand flew for a good amount of the time, and my avionics decided to take a bit of a dump. So I was without a flight director and any of my navigation, but
jeez.
of course my captain's side was fine. As soon as I started hand flying, it just said, nope. It's a beast. It's a bit of an airplane. It's pretty heavy, especially going above 200 knots. The sim did that actually pretty realistically. It is kind of a bear, but I did it, and it actually felt really good. That's the first time I've touched the controls of an airplane in a month and a half, maybe longer.
Okay.
So, and that's a long time for somebody who did that full time.
Yeah.
You know, So tomorrow I'm hoping to fly again because we have another empty leg. So fingers crossed I get
A
to
little
fly
more
again.
time flying.
Nice.
Good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
I have also not touched the controls of an airplane in quite some time. So not quite a month and a half, but 3 weeks, which when you're in the middle of an advanced rating, which I would consider commercial to be an advanced rating, you realize how probably not proficient you thought you were 3 weeks ago. So I have a lesson hopefully tomorrow morning, and we'll see how it goes. But just family vacations and then the hot weather. I'm not flying in 100 degrees. Sorry, but no.
Don't
Yeah,
think
the
it's not
Midwest,
worth it.
where it's too cold half the year and too hot the other half of the year to actually fly. So we'll see how that goes getting back into the plane. But other than that, I don't know, studying, lots of ground school stuff.
I saw an airplane the other day, like in the air,
Oh, there you go.
Wow,
flying over my house.
that's pretty cool.
Other than that, I've been so busy with work, I have not been flying. But I did record some podcast interviews this week. So
That's good.
I think I've done 4 interviews this week so far for Fly the Transition. I've got another one tomorrow morning. So,
Wow.
oh, tomorrow morning is Jason Miller.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I'm excited to talk to him.
He's so
I've used
cool.
a lot of his videos when I was going through commercial. I think that we're going to forego the news and events because the news and events are Airventure right around the corner. I mean, we're less than a month away now and super excited. And we're going to bring in EAA Director of Communications, Dick Knapinski, to tell us all about all the great things coming up with Airventure this year, some of the cool stuff that happened last year as a recap, and much, much more. Well, welcome back, Mr. Dick Knapinski, to the Flying Midwest podcast. This is, 3 years in a row we've had you on to get ready for Oshkosh?
I think so. Yeah, it's always a good, fun time to join you all. It's, we're getting down toward the short days before everybody starts heading to Oshkosh, and that's always the exciting part. We're opening up the campground. The volunteers are coming on. That third weekend in June, we had about 95 degrees out here, but boy, we had 100 volunteers out there, and they were really trucking along. And we even offered, hey, we can move you inside and move furniture and things like that. No, we're good. We'll keep cutting brush.
Aww.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
That's dedication.
Yeah. It is. They're a great, great bunch. And, we couldn't do it without them. And it is just fun to have the people from all around the country start to flow in and share their excitement about getting Airventure ready.
Yeah, that's great. Well, to get started tonight for our little icebreaker questions, we've asked you the Fast 5 questions several times, and I feel like if I tried to duplicate it, we're going to repeat questions that you've already answered. So we have decided instead to do some fairly benign and lighthearted would you rather questions, and they're definitely Oshkosh edition. So
Okay.
all right, so question number 1 for you. Would you rather camp for a night on Boeing Plaza or camp for a night in Warbirds?
Well, I'm going to take Warbirds simply because I would probably have grass to camp on instead of on the concrete. Boeing Plaza would, both areas are just fascinating. And if it does rain, I'd have a better chance of having on Boeing Plaza something over my head.
Sure.
But I'm going to have to go with Warbirds just because of the grass bedding.
Okay. That is a fair answer. The next would you rather? You can only pick one food option for the whole week. Would you rather eat nothing but cheese curd tacos or nothing but A&W?
I've had both. Cheese curd tacos are great, but I think a solid week of them, I would... Oh, man. I think I'd become a medical case, a research case at that point. So I'd probably go with A&W at that point.
Well, we should ask Badger. Badger, you turn into a medical case if you eat too much cheese curd tacos? We had a lot.
I'm not turning into any medical case I'm willing to admit on any FAA forms, that's for sure.
Oh, funny.
Oh, yeah. And we were talking about cheese curd tacos just today on staff, and there are some rookies on the staff this year. They go, "A what?" We'll just take you down there. Don't worry about it.
Trust us. We'll get you where you need to be.
Yeah, that's their first mistake. And
last year we crowned a cheese curd taco czar. He was responsible for making sure that we had cheese curd tacos. So,
oh, that's great. Yeah, that's one of those. You come to Oshkosh, you've got to eat like the locals.
Yeah, there you go.
So true.
All right, the next would you rather? You've been invited to fly along in an aerobatic performance. Would you rather fly along with the Thunderbirds or one of the other aerobatic performances?
Oh, you got to go with the Thunderbirds just once. Now, I know I would completely black out if they start doing some of those things. But, I'd say up to that point, it'd be really fun until everything started going gray and then smaller. And so, you get a chance to go with the T-Birds. Oh, yeah, you're going to do it each and every time.
I would agree with you. All right, the next one. Would you rather... You can bring back one aircraft to Airventure. Would you rather see Spaceship One fly again or the Concorde?
Oh, man, what a great question that is.
That was a Maddie question.
Yeah. I'm gonna pick the Concorde.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just the 5 times it was in Oshkosh, it was just so iconic. And it turns fuel into noise just about better than anything I've ever known. And I remember when it was late in 1994, and the Apollo astronauts were on stage at the time, and it came in late and landed, and I think it was Walt Cunningham from Apollo 7 said, "That's the sound of freedom right there." So I don't mind being interrupted by it. So, yeah, Concorde.
Concorde it is. All right.
That's awesome.
The final Would You Rather question. We're going to talk about the night air show.
Okay.
Assuming it's going to happen on the regularly scheduled day.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather... you can only pick one of these options.
Okay.
Would you rather have the air show have planes shooting out fireworks, or would you rather see the drone show?
Wow. I'm going to go just for the novelty of it still, the drone show. Because last year we put up the drones, and I found out you can computerize what you want them to do. You want them to create figures in the sky, you can do that. And if you were there to see the drones last year, you saw exactly what we were talking about. Suddenly,
oh my goodness, yeah.
EAA Airventure Oshkosh being spelled out across the sky.
Yeah.
Why the fireworks and the airplanes are going off and everything else. And so that, I'll go with the drone show.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
awesome.
so cool.
Yeah.
That probably my favorite part of the whole show last year.
Yeah, I'm not sure how insurance company thought about that whole thing, with drones and airplanes and fireworks going on all at the same time. And
that feels like someone else's problem.
that is. Yeah, we might throw in a blimp this year just for fun.
As long as it's not that Zeppelin that went down. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that one, no.
All right, well, thank you for playing along
Sure.
with the Would You Rather questions. A brand new thing for us. So I think we'll jump into the meat and potatoes of the interview.
As is tradition, we've got to talk about last year because each year is bigger than better than the one before, right? So could you give us a little bit of an overview and a recap of how last year went?
Well, we keep saying, we can't set another record, can we? And sure enough, 2024, we set another record. Total attendance, 686,000. Wow. Anybody that says, aviation is not as interesting as it once was, boy, hasn't come to Oshkosh, certainly, because it has been a tremendous growth cycle. You think about that our audience has grown by about 1/3 over the past 15 years in total attendance. And you think about that. But it was, what a great year. I mean, the weather for the most part was super. You get to late July and you never know what you're going to get. And we got a little rain every so often, but most of the time it was really pretty nice. And it was just one of those shows that we didn't know what to expect after a record-setting 2023, but people kept coming and new people. Really, it was amazing how many people I talked to. It was their first time at Oshkosh. And awesome. We hope it's word of mouth or people see it online and say, I've got to get there. And that makes the big difference. But, when everything came in, the B-52 landed and sat on Boeing Plaza all week. And it was funny, I was looking at an aerial view and the B-52 didn't look that big. And then you got on the ground, stood next to it, and it was that big.
Yeah, it sure is.
And so, and that came in. And of course, the Royal Canadian Air Force with the Snowbirds last year.
Yeah.
And, they brought in their F-18 for their centennial. and flew with that. And they told us it was only the second time the Snowbirds and that F-18 had flown together.
No kidding.
The other time was Canada Day on July 1st last year.
Okay.
And so they brought it to Oshkosh and did that. And then when we put the Lancaster up with the two B-29s before the Wednesday night show, that's just one of those things that they go, that's an Oshkosh moment right there.
Yeah.
And, and those type of things. The drone show you mentioned already, just all of those things coming together really made it a fascinating year. You think back and, it's only 12 months ago, but it seems like yesterday and it seems like forever.
Yeah.
Because the shows start to meld together and you start going, man, what year was that? Was that 22 or 23? And you go, that was 21. Wow, really? And those kind of things start happening. So just a tremendous year. A lot of enthusiasm coming out of last year. Some things that we got to do with the campground and looking for growth and trying to make room for everybody out there in Camp Scholler. And we've got some of that coming here in 2025. So, it was a year that it was a jumping off point again and seeing a lot of new things out there and made us look forward to this year.
Yeah. And I'll say that the Lancaster and the two B-29s together, that is the closing sounds of one of our little mini episodes that we did out there. And it's just we couldn't have done this better if we wanted to. This is a perfect ending to this episode. Let's watch the air show. So,
yeah, it was. What a tremendous night that was, And then, last year we had one jet team scheduled. We had the Snowbirds scheduled. Well, then the Italians were coming over to the U.S. and they were flying at the Milwaukee Air Show the last weekend we were there. And so they said, we'd like to come up. And this is actually a good story that, they were talking about whether they could come in. And they said, can we do a loop? And they said, no, you're coming in at 10:30 in the morning. We don't have the aerobatic box. You can't do the loop. No, okay.
Yeah.
So a week later, a different guy contacts us from the team and said, we are most excited. We can do loop, right? No, you can't do the loop. You can't. And so a week later, third guy calls us, and said, we are looping. No, no looping. There's no looping that we're going to do. And so they came in. They were supposed to do 2 passes, and I don't know if you were there the Tuesday morning when they came in.
Yep.
They were supposed to do 2 passes. They did 6. And they landed. And if you had gone to central casting and say, okay, I need 10 guys that look like swarthy Italian military pilots, these would have been the 10 guys right there. And so they're on Boeing Plaza acting very much like Italian military pilots and had a great time. In fact, a couple of them came back the next day, their off day, and came back to Oshkosh from Milwaukee just to hang out.
Cool.
They left
That's
at the start
awesome.
of the air show. They were supposed to do 2 passes. They did 6. We could tell they were doing too many because one of the guys with the green smoke oil was running out of smoke oil by the time they did the final pass. So that was it. So that was Tuesday. Wednesday, the Blue Angels were going from one air show to another. And so they just decided to sweep a little bit north and do a couple passes and, say hi and be on their way. Well, the Thunderbirds, who were also flying in Milwaukee that coming weekend, heard the Blues had come in and done 2 passes. And so they came in and did 4. Just because you can't let the Blues steal everything else. So they did 4. And then we had the Snowbirds. That was Thursday. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we had the Snowbirds. So 6 days out of 7, we actually had a military team flying at Oshkosh. Totally unprecedented. We'd never had that before. And it was just kind of happenstance. And people say, how did you do that? I said, it's Oshkosh. This kind of stuff happens. That's just the way it works. So, that was really a highlight last year.
So you rattle off a ton of stuff that every single thing you said made us giggle and memories and all that, because it was incredible being there. And I guess of all the things, all the experiences, all of the planes, is there any one moment that you can pick out as this is it?
Yeah. Last year, I would have to say the B-29s and the Lancaster.
Yeah.
Because it was so unusual. We were going back saying, do we even know when B-29s and Lancasters had been in the same formation? Because during the war, primarily the B-29s were in the Pacific theater. The Lancasters were in the European theater. And so we figure sometime in the 1950s, they may have crossed paths and been in the air at the same time. But boy, that was pretty rare. And just to have that, we had a record number of Canadians come down and join us last year, just because of the Royal Canadian Air Force Centennial, and just really a good vibe all the way around with that. And you know, that made it special. I remember when the F-18 from Canada was flying with the Snowbirds, I was doing a live radio bit with WTMJ Radio in Milwaukee, and the radio host literally stopped. They were just west of the tower when that formation went by, and they were asking me a question, and they just stopped and went, "That is so cool." Then they had to go back and explain to the radio audience what was happening that was so cool. And then they asked me, "What exactly is that?" I said, "Well, those are the Snowbirds, and that's an F-18 from Canada flying with them." And you remember that Canadian F-18, that it had one side was blue and the underside was red.
Yeah,
the way
really
they
cool
painted it for the Centennial. You know, so that was a lot of fun. It just was a real good vibe in all those aspects.
Yeah, especially the Lancaster and the B-29. That was really, really cool. So
It was, yeah.
And it's always kind of fun, too, to do things live at Airventure because you get those sounds in the background, and inevitably everybody pauses to look at what's flying by. And just like you said, we have to explain to the audience, oh, yeah, a plane interrupted our podcast. How dare they at an air show?
we had a
I
couple
can
of moments
imagine
like
that.
that.
You know, being airplane geeks and doing a live podcast out there has to be like suddenly you go, ooh,
It's so hard.
yeah.
Yeah, and as I went back and edited, I left a lot of it in. We had a whole little shtick about some kid crying while eating ice cream. We had to.
Wow.
Right.
That must be a bad day. You're crying even after
That's
eating
what
ice
we
cream.
said. It's like,
We were so distracted.
Yeah.
Patrick's like, "Wait, what is happening?"
Yeah.
Surrounded by airplanes, eating ice cream, just full of tears.
Yeah. Maybe they're tears of joy. Who knows?
Yes.
Or maybe mom and dad said it's time to go. I could understand crying for
Yeah.
that.
Gotta go.
Understandable.
No, I can't take the airplane home. You know.
Yeah. We didn't explore that last year. That's probably why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. So what's new on the grounds this year?
Well, one of the big things new, and I alluded to it a little bit, is expanding the campground to the southeast. Camp Scholler has been growing over the past decade or so. More people coming in. They're staying longer. And one big phenomenon in my 30 years with the EA staff is the difference in the size of the camping units.
I suppose.
Completely different. You know, people had pull-behind trailers, a fifth wheel, a lot of tents.
Yep.
Yeah, and now people are pulling in with these motorhomes that have pop-out sides and satellite dishes and everything else. And so those bigger units need a little more room, so you start expanding the campground out. At the same time, the last 2 years on Saturday, we ran into a situation with a night show because you get a lot of general public out there where we were running short of auto parking. We were creating parking lots on the fly, literally, just to get everybody in there. And so this past off season, we actually had a chance to sit down and say, how are we going to use the land? So we took part of Camp Scholler down in the southwest corner, right off of Ripple Road and Poberezny. And really, you know, some people like camping there, but you were between Interstate 41 and the dump station. And figuring, okay, if you're going to have people moving camping, that's probably the spot, you know, and so we made that into vehicle parking. And so we can accommodate, I think, about 3,000 more cars there.
Wow.
And then move the people into a larger area, actually expanded it out somewhat toward the southeast. And that's going to be known as Camp Scholler Southeast. And there's an entry gate down there, just south of the ultralight strip. We're going to have shuttles running there. So people coming into camp will have that experience, and actually a lot shorter walk than they had at the old spot there between the interstate and the dump station. So, you know, that's one major change on the grounds that's going on this year that people will notice. So doing a lot, you know, some of the campgrounds, some people have told us that, hey, there are fewer trees here in the wooded areas, right? Yeah, the old emerald ash borer really has taken a toll. We removed something like 400 trees over the last 2 years just because, you know, the bugs were getting them.
Yeah.
And so you've got to do that. We're slowly replanting, but, you know, trees take time. And
They sure do.
So that's been a change in some of the campground too. But Generally, the grounds are going to be the same. Boeing Plaza is not something you're going to move right away. One thing that they're doing up in the Warbirds area, they're going to be expanding some of their facilities too. Their briefing building. We're creating something in honor of Bud Anderson, Memorial Garden down there in the Warbirds area. They'll be rolling that out on July 22nd, on the Tuesday, and talking about that a little bit. So to honor that great World War II ace, Bud Anderson, who was a fixture at Airventure for years and years and years. And so he will be honored there. So you'll see that start to develop as well. But other than that, we're getting ready to go once again and getting everything in order for July 21st for opening day.
I want to go back on something real quick, just with the camping and the parking. How big of a logistical lift is that for you all to do all the planning and logistics to make something like a change like that happen? I'd imagine it's got to be probably more than the average person is thinking. It's not just, let's put some more camping over here.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, first of all, you have to, get all the approvals from all of the local authorities that are involved. And when you talk about the Airventure grounds, you have Winnebago County that owns the airport, and we actually lease the airport. We write them a 6-figure check every year to lease the airport and use all the property. And then you work with the city of Oshkosh and the town of Nakai. And so to give you an idea, city of Oshkosh, basically where the museum is and that area, Pioneer Airport, that belongs to the city of Oshkosh. You get south toward Camp Scholler, it's actually a township. It's the town of Nakai. So you're dealing with 3 different governing bodies, the township, the city, and the county right there, and getting all the permits. And then you're dealing with state authorities, Department of Natural Resources, things like that. Are there any wetlands you have to concern yourself with? And that's before you've developed anything. And then you have to start thinking, okay, how many spots can we get in this campground? How do we develop roads? How do you get the logistics, the dumpsters, the shower buildings, places where they can get water? How close are they to a grocery store someplace down there, one of our Red One groceries? Do you need shuttles now from the new lot, which will be the auto parking lot, which will be known as the Purple Lot? You have to run shuttles because that's a mile walk down a town road to get to the flight line. So we're running shuttles so to keep people safe and constantly shuttling them back and forth. So that's more buses involved. So now you have to get that involved. How are you going to flow people who want to camp in the new area through the campground, through the regular gate, all the way through to get them to the southeast part? Have to consider that as well. How do you flow the auto traffic into the new lot and get them out more quickly? And we work with the local police, sheriff's department, state patrol here in Wisconsin for all of that. So, we actually haven't welcomed anybody yet, and those are the things we have to do before that even starts.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mentioned that just because you hear every once in a while, every couple of years, I just wish there's more of this. There's more camping or more parking, and I just don't think people realize how big of a lift that really is to make that happen. It's not just a matter of snap my fingers, here's some more camping.
Well, to give you an idea, last year, I think on Saturday night, we parked, or on Saturday, we parked 13,000 cars. Wow. That's just one day. And I think on Wednesday, we were around 11 or 12,000 for the day. The night air show always brings in an increased crowd. But that's a tremendous number of vehicles to move in and out. And, we cleared all of the lots within 2 hours. So from the end of the night air show, people started leaving right away. And by the time you shuttle everybody off the flight line, get them to the parking lots, get them there, going out through the town roads. And that was another consideration. We had some situations where we had people in vehicles on a town road, and we said, that's not safe. We have to separate that out and keep people safe. So there was more logistics that came into that. And the new entry gate off of Camp Scholler Southeast, that will be part of it now. So they're not walking on the roadways. And so we can keep that clear for shuttles and so forth. So it's a constant evolution of how the logistics work, depending on how the schedule works. Do you have weather? How many campers do you have? All of that plays into it from year to year.
Getting back into the on-the-ground stuff, though, is there any particular attraction or, of course, aircraft that we should be looking forward to this year at Airventure?
One of my absolute favorites this year, and there are a lot, and we'll talk about some of them, but it is the 100th anniversary of Goodyear flying the blimp. So they actually contacted us and said, we haven't been there in a few years with the blimp. Could we bring 2? Okay.
Can they loop?
Yeah. Well, what I was, yeah.
So your comment earlier about adding the blimp to the fireworks might happen.
It could happen. I was
They've got a spare.
Yeah, I was thinking, Jim, the head-on knife edge pass during the air show would be fun.
Right.
And
It'll be in slow motion.
Yeah, and they're working on some stuff. I mean, they're having fun with it, and
that's good.
So, and I've always said one of my favorite things working at EAA is sometimes I'll stop in my office during Airventure week and I'll look out and there's a blimp in the backyard, and go, well, of course there's a blimp in the backyard. It's Airventure week. Why wouldn't you have a blimp in the backyard? So it sounds as if we're going to park one where we usually do, right behind the museum, and one closer to the interstate in an area that we can't really park any cars in because it's a little bit away from things. But people driving on Interstate 41 will see the blimp parked there.
Yeah.
Now, this is great on one level, and it worries me a little bit how many auto accidents will cause on the other level. And I even started thinking, well, while you're waiting for the tow truck, step over here to the fence and get a picture of your selfie with yourself with the blimp. And, it's, and one of the blimps are in the usual Goodyear colors. And the other one, they have painted retro in their 1925 markings.
Oh, wow.
It looks so cool.
The first blimp looked. Yeah. So they will be there. And they're looking forward to coming. And I was just talking to the Goodyear folks here this afternoon. And they're very fired up about being there and to be part of it this year. And they use it as certainly a promotional tool. They get their dealers and vendors and everybody else to come out and have a great time as well. So, that'll be part of it. The U2 spy plane's coming back, I think, for the first time in about 10 or 12 years.
I'm so excited.
So, that will be coming in right beforehand. It'll be coming in on Sunday, the day before.
Okay.
And so that'll be there the entire week on the ground.
Nice.
Pratt & Whitney is bringing a 747, a test bed 747, that they actually have this weird little engine nacelle out the right side of the cockpit. They used as a test bed. And so that will be there the first 4 days. It'll be there. So that will be a lot of fun to have that there. And I know our Boeing Plaza crew is saying, we've got a full ramp. There's a C-17 coming in. We've got this. We've got that. Both B-29s, Doc and Fifi, will be there at times during the week. So it's going to be a very full ramp. Matter of fact, we had guys that had a military cargo airplane that said, we'll be there on Thursday. We don't remember you saying that you were going to be here. Okay. We got a spot for one of these someplace. And so, and every time we do that, our Boeing Plaza crew, which, by the way, is all volunteers, they have probably pushed, pulled, and tugged more types of airplanes than anybody on Earth. But it's an all-volunteer crew, and they work it out. They do all the mental gymnastics and mathematics to make all those airplanes fit and move them around and get the ones out that have to get out and get the ones in and parked that are going to be there for the whole week.
They do an awesome job.
Yeah, they do.
Every year, all the acts in every air show are so incredible. They all do such an amazing job and look amazing. But what are some of the performers or acts that you think are particularly unique and interesting this year?
Oh, boy. One thing that always gets me is the aerobatic helicopter.
Oh, the Red Bull.
Fitzgerald comes in, and he comes in and
Sorry.
does that. And you go, the first time I saw it, I went, is that safe? I'm not sure.
It has no business doing that.
Yeah, that's right. It's just, if I tried to do that, that'd be an accident. But it's, but they do that, and that's always fun to watch. A lot of night air shows. One of the things I've always loved is when they brought out the jet glider in the night air show, because it's so different. You've got the powered airplanes, you've got the Titan aerobatic team flying. You've got Matt Younkin and his Beech 18, a lot of noise and smoke. And then you bring out the glider. And it goes up to altitude and has the music behind it. And it goes by and all you hear is the air going over the wings. And you go, wow, that's such a difference. And that is so cool. That's one of those things that just Bob Carlton flew it that first year. And I talked to him the next day and I said, wow, that stopped me after 20 years of seeing the show on staff. That stopped me. And I had to go, that's different. I'm going to watch that. So those type of things. But, putting together the air show and what we can do with the military, we've got the F-35A and the F-35B there at different times. F-22 demo team's going to be there. The F-16s will be there. Who knows who else is going to show up all of a sudden. And so it's one of those things. It's fun to put together the air show. And, we hear the good and the bad afterwards that, well, you guys should do this, or there are too many jets, or there are not enough jets. And okay, everybody has their personal preferences. But you try to mix it up so you don't watch a series of pit specials, but you have something that's a mix. You might have a formation team and then something that is a little bit slower, and then something a little more aerobatic and so forth. So, all of that. One thing we're doing in the air show this year is Monday, we're going to be paying tribute to Rob Holland. Of course, the tragic loss of Rob Holland back in April. Yeah. The 13-time national aerobatic champion and just a great guy, really a mentor to a lot of people in the airshow business. And so some of his friends in the airshow business will be getting together, and we're going to have a tribute to him on the opening day for the air show. And that'll be something special. And Rob's wife is going to bring his trophies in, and they're going to be on display at the IAC building, the International Aero Club building, during the week, so people can stop by and see all those trophies that Rob Holland won and earned through all the years. So that'll be something starting off. Wednesday, we've got Women Venture once again. We'll have the big crowd of women, the big mass photo on Boeing Plaza taking place. Thursday, we're doing a salute to the 75th anniversary of the start of the Korean War. So right now, it was kind of fun this week. British Vampire jet landed, and we've got it in the museum right now for a few weeks in the Eagle hangar. And later on, the ME-262, the Messerschmitt Reproduction 262, first time that's been at Oshkosh, should be coming in, and we're going to put that in the museum next to the Vampire for a couple of weeks until about July 16th or 17th until we get it out on the flight line. So they're coming in early to be a part of it, and we have a chance to give them an inside spot for those weeks and let people come up and see them. It's a great opportunity to see those two early jets in the museum at the same time and enjoy it before the entire show starts.
That's awesome.
That's really neat, too.
I've only seen...
I'm getting so excited.
I know. I saw Vampire just once. It came into Wichita while I was flight instructing, and I was absolutely beside myself. When are you going to see that? That's so cool.
Yeah. You just don't. It's a big flying wedge, suddenly comes in and does that. And then, the 262, we've been talking to the folks out at the Military Aviation Museum in Virginia Beach for a long time. And they've got it together, and they've always wanted to get it out here. And finally it worked out. And so they're making the hop across half of the country to get here.
That's awesome.
And this will be a first time at Oshkosh. And there aren't too many aircraft you can say it's going to be the first time at Oshkosh. But this is one in 2025. And, we hope to get it up. They're eager to fly it a couple of times during the air shows. And so our air show people are plotting how we're going to fit that in and make it real exciting.
Sure, you'll do a great job.
Look forward to it.
Yes. Yeah. So hyped.
So speaking of looking forward to things, we've talked a lot about planes, air shows, the expansion of the camping grounds, improved parking. What's one thing that you, being a part of organizing all of this, is looking forward to the most as far as behind the scenes that the average attendee might not even think is a thing?
It's always for me just almost the gathering of the volunteers and the people that make it come in, that's as much fun as everything else. And it actually started in late June when some of the early volunteers came in and started setting up, and they're out there, and suddenly you'll run into them on the grounds and you'll catch up on things. And you really appreciate how hard that they work. They're out there pounding fence posts. And here's one from the previous weekend. Family came out, the parents and the two kids, and they built 55 sections of picket fence. And that's what they did all weekend. They just put wood together to make picket fence and paint them and have them ready to go. Those are the little things that people don't see. They get there and go, well, this airplane, why isn't that thing there? Or my favorite thing here. Well, I always say you cannot knock over one domino at Airventure. If you knock over one someplace, you move a dumpster 12 feet, 10 other things are going to happen because of that. And so it really is true, because everything has to fold into everything else. And you really get to appreciate anybody who's a project manager out there. You get to appreciate the massiveness of the project. And I often tell people, this is the time of year I'm looking at Airventure with a tremendous amount of excitement and almost an equal amount of dread, because oh my God, we've got all this stuff we've got to get done, and to do that. And so really, that's what you start to see people come in when the campground opens, and you start talking with them. People come in and start to see the grounds take shape, and there's an excitement in town. I was talking to the Convention Bureau board just the other day, and just how eager they are to see everybody come back to Oshkosh. It's a great economic boom, of course, but it makes such a difference for the community, because it makes Oshkosh special. I mean, face it, if you're in aviation, you know the word Oshkosh.
Yes, you do.
It has a special meaning for people coming in here. And just to see social media now, everybody's saying, yep, looking forward to this, looking forward to that. And so we put those little driblets out there that people can start watching and what's coming in. So that's, you see a lot of airplanes come and go, and that's great. And you get photos by them. But really, those people coming in and making it all happen is probably the thing I look forward to the most.
I interviewed Jerry Burke last year about his book, On the Grounds and Up. And admittedly, I didn't realize how many volunteers were actually partaking in the creation and running of Airventure every year. And I was just really amazed by some of the stories that he shared as far as how all this comes together.
It is. We've got about 6,000 volunteers that work the event. 300 of them are chair people. For their individual areas, I think it's about 80 to 85 different areas. And like I mentioned before, some of them are all volunteers. You go out to the seaplane base, that's an all volunteer operation they run out there. It's so many other places. The North 40, when you come in and park, all volunteer operation. And, they're getting ready to go once again. And so it really makes you appreciate the drive, the dedication, just the stick-to-itiveness of those groups that say, we're going to make this happen. And how do we make it happen a little bit better? There's a great story about Paul Poberezny back in the 60s. And I forget who told this, but it was a friend of Paul. And somebody came to him after one of the shows in Rockford and said, and it always starts, you guys should. And then fill in the rest of the sentence after that. Yeah, this is what you guys should do. And Paul was a master of this. He looked at the guy and said, that's a great idea. I'm naming you chairman for that. Find yourself some volunteers that trust you, and I'll get you the materials you need and look forward to making it happen.
Oh, I love that.
The guy suddenly found himself as a volunteer and for a chairman for the next decade because he opened his mouth, and there you go. You want to make it happen, you can help.
It's so funny.
Oh.
You know what? Good for him for actually following up and doing it, because most people would say, "Oh, guess it's not happening."
If you guys don't want to do it, that's fine. But it takes people, it takes time, it takes planning. You've got to make sure For instance, at Boeing Plaza alone, what airplanes are coming in? What are going out? Where can we move things? If you have a military airplane, does it need security? Is something only going to be there for one day? Is something going to be there for a week? You can put over there. The military, does it have a tent that has to go on the grass next to it? All of those things start to play into what you're doing, and that's just one small area that goes. We've got, most people don't know, we have a volunteer kitchen. We've got volunteers that make sandwiches for the other volunteers out there that deliver them out on the flight line. So they've got lunch. And that's a whole operation in itself. Speaking at press headquarters where I do my stuff, we've got about 40, 45 volunteers that work the front counter or drive the media shuttle throughout the entire week. And they're a great bunch. There's one group of 6 guys I call the Cincinnati gang. They're all from the Cincinnati area, and they come up and they spend 5 days driving golf carts and driving the media around. And so, we're blessed to have them, and they're enthusiastic about it. And I tell them, yeah, you guys, you get to drive a golf cart. It's air conditioned inside, so you get to come back in. We feed you lunch, and you get to watch the show. I said, pretty good gig. And they go, yeah, why do you think we come back every year?
We know.
Yeah. So, but they're great to have, and they're enthusiastic about it. And you can't help but have fun when the volunteers come in and they have that kind of enthusiasm for the event.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody always seems so hyped to be there.
It is, and that's what makes it fun. It's like the international visitors, Maddie, they come in, and for some of them, it's the first time, and they've just heard about this thing called Oshkosh. And I will say, I've never had anybody come to me and say, this isn't quite as big as I thought it would. Everybody always says, oh my goodness, they told me it was big. I had no idea. I go, yeah, now you're starting to get it. That's the way that works. And, just the massive size of it and the massive number of things that go on add to the complexity. Because, the forums and seminars and just the events, we have more than 1,400 events that go on during those 7 days. So think of it, an average of 200 events a day going on the grounds that are on the schedule. This isn't even the stuff that happens in the campground or along the flight line where people suddenly just do some fun stuff. These are the scheduled things. And, putting that together is an amazing piece of choreography in itself.
Yeah, I'd imagine. So it's probably too late for this year, but maybe it's not. How do people get involved in volunteering for Airventure?
Show up. Literally, we take volunteers, and even if they arrive during the week, we have a volunteer center right at Camp Scholler. There's a small building there, and we have areas that say, who needs volunteers? And so people come up and say, hey, I'd like to volunteer I'm here for 2 days. I could give, 4 hours, 8 hours, whatever it happens to be. Okay, here's what we've got. What are you interested in? And some people do the things that they've done for a living, or they enjoy doing for their life. And, some people are security people. Some people do accounting. And so we'll put them in and we'll have them sorting shirts in the warehouse. And some people do things completely different than anything they do in their job throughout the entire year. So they may be, an actuary or in finance or something like that. And they're out there chucking around with a shovel and putting wood chips in spots that, it was driven in and now it's kind of wet and mushy. So you need wood chips there. So they'll drive around with a John Deere Gator full of wood chips and 3 shovels and filling that for 4 hours. And that's what they do. And, there's a certain esprit de corps that you get after doing that, saying, I'm part of the inside group now. I see things. And you get to take that volunteer T-shirt back home and tell your buddies that, yep, I was part of that show. And there's a great deal of pride in that from those people. And, if we can get them there and have them some fun, and they'll come back year after year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard there's so many stories of people who are like just decades, or it becomes a family affair of like father, son, daughters get involved.
Yeah. There are some families who are now on their 4th generation of volunteering.
Wow.
At the EAA flying. Great granddad started in Milwaukee. Wow. And then maybe he and grandpa volunteered at Rockford. And then it grew into, the next generation coming in when they moved to Oshkosh. And now you've got the 4th generation, the great grandkids who are maybe teenagers, and they're there working on the flight line. And you just go, there's something special. You can't buy that kind of help. And you couldn't, I'm going to put this wrong, but, you can't chase them away because they are this group. And so we treasure them. And, I've learned that even at press headquarters, getting some of those people in, some of them we get the first year and you don't know, but pretty soon they start coming back and, hey, I had fun for 3 days. Can I do it again next year? And, we've got the benefit of suddenly we've got 40 people slots, and they're all full for the entire week. And we're going, okay, somebody called and said, hey, I'd love to help. Well, tell you what, can we put you on the list in case somebody has to go home early? And and you do that. So it's a great problem to have. But we'll often recommend people saying, hey, we don't have a spot for you here, but I know these people need help. We think you'll have fun over at that group too. And, try to help each other out a little bit. So
if you could choose one thing, like the biggest thing that you want the general public or the listeners of this podcast to know before they come this year, what would be that thing?
Okay, that's got a couple different answers, Maddie. The first one is if you are flying in to Oshkosh, you're bringing your airplane this year, get the FAA NOTAM, read it. That's number one. Badger?
I'm holding mine up right now.
There we go. All right, there it is. And we love it. That's it. Yes.
Yeah, for the audio only audience, I'm holding up the printed copy.
Yep.
That the boomers and older will know what paper copies of things are.
That's right. Yeah.
But I also have the PDF ready to go.
Oh yeah. And FAA officially calls it a notice. They say, we called it the NOTAM for years and years, and officially they said no. It officially falls into a notice, not a NOTAM. Okay, fine. But everybody knows it as the NOTAM. It's like we call it Airventure, and everybody in town calls it EAA, and everybody out of town calls it Oshkosh. Okay, we understand that. We go with it. And so we tell them, and every time we talk about the notice, we say commonly known as the NOTAM. And but it's so important to know that. And there are some great YouTube videos out there. People who've flown the approach to Oshkosh. We've got some stuff out there that we've put in about flying to Oshkosh. The FAA did a great webinar a couple weeks back that they've posted. And we're trying to make it so people feel comfortable with it, because they might hear stories from friends to say, boy, it's so busy and everything else. Yeah. If you pay attention, watch the videos, go to our website and take a look at that and know where you are. If you come in prepared, and thank you, Badger, for having the notice there, because that's part of the preparation. If you come in prepared, if you just fly in and say, well, I'll just follow everybody else, yeah, you're going to get a little harried out there because there's a lot of stuff happening, and most of us do not fly in those kind of airspaces or around those kind of airports with that kind of traffic on a regular basis. Yep. So if I tell anybody, if they're flying in, get out there, maybe go to a controlled airspace, shoot a few landings, just get used to hearing air traffic controllers if you usually fly at an uncontrolled field, and bring it in that way. Just in the common thing, though, one thing that I really would urge people to do, Thursday night at Theater in the Woods, we're doing that salute to the Korean War, the 75th. Mm-hmm. And our guy, Chris Henry, from our museum staff, has put together a marvelous presentation. It talks about the actual MASH units. And Chris has actually become friends with a number of the cast members from the TV show. And talked to them about some of the stories that they learned from the Korean War veterans that they incorporated into the plots of the TV series, and how that all worked out. So that is something. Friday night at the Fly-In Theater, we're showing that 2-hour finale of MASH as the movie that night.
That'd be awesome.
And so, people, still the highest rated TV series show in American history. Had the biggest audience, and that was 40 years ago now. And we're going to be showing that. And for people who remember it, like I do, that it was appointment viewing that night. The streets were quiet, everybody was home or in a bar or someplace watching MASH that night, and so we're going to be playing that. So we think that's going to be very big. So that's going to be part of it as well. Where National Guard is going to be the wing of the Air Force. We're paying tribute this year, so they're going to we have 7 different National Guard state units bringing aircraft in.
Wow.
Maryland's bringing in the A-10s, and they're going to be decommissioned pretty soon. So if you want to see a Warthog fly, this might be your last chance to do it. And
I sure wish they wouldn't do that. But.
Yeah, I know. They are so cool, and they're kind of ugly, but they're so lethal. And, it's all of those things. Yeah, there's a balance there. And, if they would show up coming over the hill at you, you're not going to have a good day. So it's, so to have the National Guard there. And, those are the citizen soldiers. Those are the guys who have regular jobs and then fly those. The Wisconsin Guard will be there. We've got Alaska bringing down a C-17. 4 other units are going to be participating as well with their aircraft. So that'll be a nice touch. Throughout. And so, just all of those things coming together, it's really tough to pinpoint one, and there are always surprises. We've got one, there's a Beach 18 coming in called the Hollywood Bomber. And this was owned by Jackie Cochran back in the 50s and then purchased by Merv Griffin. And I've had some of our younger staff members stare at me blankly when I said Merv Griffin. And I said, he invented Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. Oh, okay. So that airplane will be here. They've got it restored. They're bringing it up from Texas. Speaking of one, we've got this is really interesting, a 1909 Demoiselle. A French aero club has rebuilt a Demoiselle, very wispy looking aircraft. It was a 1-person aircraft, and they're shipping it from France to be here. It's going to be parked in the vintage area, and we're bringing out our Moraine Salinar and our Blériot from the museum and parking it next to it. So you're going to see airplanes from the first 15 years of flight parked there. That's in the vintage area. And so that'll be interesting to watch that as well. So those are those little things that are on the grounds that people should be looking for, because it's unique. Every time you turn a corner, you're going to see something like, wow, I haven't seen that before. And it's amazing we can do that every year at Oshkosh. Yeah,
I don't know how you guys do it every year. It is incredible how you're able to pull this together and the unique things you can bring in, and I love it.
It is. People often raise their hand and say, hey, we're working on this. Last year, you may recall, I don't know if you went down to the vintage Red Barn and saw the Pepsi Cola Stinson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Oh my God, what a beautiful airplane. Yeah. And that thing was, that was a Flightline queen the entire week. There were people taking pictures of that the entire week. And it's just like, wow. Somebody took the time and effort to restore that airplane to what it was.
Yeah.
And bring it up. It sounds like and one other thing, the Elvis jet is coming back this year. Don't know if you saw it last year. This was
I didn't see it last year.
This was the Elvis Presley airplane that Elvis actually never flew in, but it ended up in a boneyard in Nevada. And a guy from Florida bought it, Jimmy Webb, cut the wings and the tail off of it and put it on a truck chassis and drove it up from Florida last year. Had a spot for it, and it still has the red velvet seats inside of it and all of these things. And he's coming back this year.
Excellent.
And so he's going to be... from what I remember, he's going to be parked someplace near Theater in the Woods and Vintage Headquarters along what's called Vern Avenue right there. Yeah. It has an exhibit spot. So, he painted it. It actually looks really good. And he did a lot with that. And, so you're driving a jet fuselage along the highways of the nation to bring it to Oshkosh, and it'll be here.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So cool.
Probably gets good gas mileage, very aerodynamic on the road.
Well, I think you're half right. It's aerodynamic and it does get gas mileage.
Yes.
Is there anything else that we wanted to cover that we haven't that you can think of?
Well, I think the big thing, and again, I always remind people about this, and this goes back to Paul Poberezny's days, that the Oshkosh rules apply. If you see some, bring your common sense, bring your nice to one another, and if you see garbage on the ground, pick it up. Even if you didn't drop it, pick it up, put it away. No smoking on the flight line. Please remember that. It's one of those things. If don't touch the airplanes without permission. Make sure you don't have that camera strap hanging around your neck and it bangs against somebody's airplane. Just the Oshkosh common sense rules out there. People continue to remark that for the hundreds of thousands of people that go through these grounds, every morning you come back and it's clean. And that's a credit to each and every person that comes out to the grounds. And so, please remember that. It's wear comfortable shoes. Bring your sunscreen, bring your water, because there's a lot of walking. We all walk more than we think we do each and every day. And be ready to have, to turn every corner and find something new at Airventure.
Awesome.
So excited.
Well, thank you so much for once again coming on, getting us all pumped up for Airventure for yet another year. We can't thank you enough for taking the time.
Well, we'll see you on the flight line real soon. We're getting eager about it. I went by press headquarters the other day, and we've got the shell of it up right now, and we have to put all the stuff inside of it yet. But we'll get that done and be ready to go, and we'll be ready to go come the 21st of July.
Looking forward to it.
Well, thanks again to Dick Knapinski for joining us yet again on the Flying Midwest podcast. We always love having him on and getting us geared up for Osh. Oh, I'm so excited. You guys hyped?
I am, but I'm surprised he keeps coming back.
I know. Considering we're not a real podcast,
I mean, at this point, I'm pretty sure we are. It's been several years.
Shh, don't tell him. He won't let us back on the grounds anymore. Well, I think to really make sure, at least I get invited back. I can't speak for the two of you. But I think I'm going to try and do some volunteering. Maybe not this year because I think we've got a pretty tight schedule, but next year for sure. Especially hearing how integral the volunteers are, because they really couldn't put this on. But not only that, but and I'm not saying I'm going to volunteer for the appreciation, but just how much they appreciate and hold up their volunteers and really emphasize the importance of them. I think that would be a good thing to do.
Absolutely. I was actually wanting to do it the other year.
Yeah, I thought about it too, but just more in the space, like with the way our timing breaks down for when we're all going to be there throughout the week. I mean, I'm there all week, and then Maddie's there for part of the week, Badger's there part of the week, and there's a little bit of overlap there. But other than that, I might get bored without the two of you, and I might need to find something to do. So
I'm sure they'd love to have you at the volunteer station.
I would like to actually volunteer to just follow Dembro around while he's doing the plane talk. Maybe I can reel up microphone cables or something like that. Dembro, if you're listening, I got you.
So you're not going to shovel wood chips?
I wouldn't mind that.
I think that would be good.
You just cruise around the grounds in a gator and shovel wood chips? I'd be down with that.
Or I realize they've already dibsed it with the Cincinnati guys, but just driving around golf carts for media?
Oh, that'd be so cool.
That would be cool. Yeah. Ideas.
Yeah, it sounds like the media tent is full. So, oh well. When
he was talking about, pick up the grounds even if it's not your trash, and don't touch planes without permission, and sort of the Oshkosh rule sort of thing. One thing he didn't mention is people on the flight line with their handheld radios because they want to hear ATC, and it's in their backpack, and they've got a hot mic, and it's blocking everybody else. So just as a public service announcement, if you're going to do that, please have your radio somewhere where it's not keying up the mic.
Yeah,
Amen.
Yeah.
All right, well, hey, just a friendly reminder. If you want to rock some Flying Midwest Podcast merch at Airventure, like all the cool kids, head on over to our website, Flying Midwest Podcast. That is not the website.
Feel justified.
You have to leave that in there because you left it in when I screwed it up last time.
I sure did. FlyingMidwest.com/merch. Check out the coolest and latest and greatest in Flying Midwest podcasts and Badger pilots and all the other merchandise to represent at your next favorite flying event or your adventure.
you can rock our merch while you rock your wings as you fly in Oshkosh.
Ooh, well done. I love it.
Which I will be doing. I will 100% be wearing some merch
You
all
better.
week, but especially while I'm rocking my wings.
If you enjoy what we do, a little extra, more than just enjoying, please like and subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you tune in every couple of weeks. We love when people comment and rate 5 stars. We will read
5-star rating.
5-star ratings. Definitely comment, rate us. If you really, really like what we do and want to support us financially, because we are doing this for fun and it costs money to make a podcast, consider joining us on Patreon. We have lower tiers, so if you only want, throw $1 our way, tip, put a $1 in our hats, then you can join one of those tiers. Or if you like us a lot, you can
Think about it.
consider joining us on our Patreon.
So, yeah, think of your level of participation or involvement as what level of friend you want to be with the show. So, like, liking and subscribing is like associate. Acquaintance would be like leaving a 5-star rating and a review. Buddy Zone is the Discord, and then the friends of the show are patrons. So if you want to be a friend of the show, join us on Patreon. Otherwise, feel free to email us at flyingmidwestpodcast.com. Get a link to join our Discord where we've
Still not the website.
flyingmidwestpodcast@gmail.com.
It's not. It's not our website.
You didn't say at Gmail.
I
You
didn't
said
say the Gmail.
flyingmidwestpodcast.com.
I also said Discord. I don't know where that came from. Email us at flyingmidwestpodcast@gmail.com. Get a link to the Discord, because we've got all sorts of buddies there telling stories about flying through the Midwest.
I love how you brought this concept full circle.
That's what I do.
Well, for all of our associates and buddies and friends, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Flying Midwest Podcast. And until next time,
See ya.
See ya!
see ya!
Flight 536, contact Minneapolis Center 132.35. Good day.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Flying Midwest Podcast. Until next time, podcast service terminated, squawk VFR, frequency change approved. Good day.
We'd love to have anyone, friend, buddy, frenemy, associate, or anybody. Anyone can come. Henchman? What? Oh, wow. See, here's the problem with how we're doing this now. Dick Knapinski's going to listen back to this and go, what on earth happened before I got in there?
He's going to put us in the unassociated zone.
No, we can do better than that. Cheering, drum roll, laughing. Yeah.
There's no laughing allowed on this podcast.
We've been laughing the whole time. What are you talking about?
You're making me screw up my art.
The world premiere review of this. No. I'm trying to make this too big of a deal. I'm going to start that whole thing over, I think. You good with that? Complaints?
Do whatever you want.
Maddie's just doodling.
I'm not. I'm drawing.
Maddie's done with us.
I got friend zoned. I got podcast friend zone. So
What? That was the highest level.
is co-host not a higher level than friend?
No, he told us at the very beginning, you guys, I consider my friends. Do you not want to be our friend anymore? I mean,
No, I can still be friends with you.
okay.
Unless my mom says I can't.
I'm not going to unpack that. That's too much to unpack tonight.
I'm a grown-ass man. I do what I want no matter what my mom says.
Sorry, Mom. Sorry.
Yeah,
Dad.
I'm sure she'd love to hear that.
Yeah, Dad, don't tell Mom I said that.
We've been full of a lot of shenanigans so far in this episode. Maybe we should, can we get serious?
Probably not, but we can try.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious.
We good?
Good.
Thoughts, concerns, stupid comments,
I like
bad
it.
jokes?
I have a lot of stupid comments and bad jokes. What the
Okay. If I'm also being honest with you, I have no idea how I'm going to edit any of that into something coherent.
You'll figure it out. I have faith.
All over the place.
Do you like what we do? Too bad. You should know.
Let's redo that one. Were you assuming they were going to say no? Do you like what we do? No. Well, too bad.
Too
That's
bad.
how I
Too
took
damn
it.
bad.
It's too damn bad.